Gambia is proud to host the 15th OIC Summit on the 4th and 5th May 2024, the second largest gathering of world leaders, kings, presidents, rulers, prime ministers, along with delegates from 57 member countries of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation will gather in our beloved nation for this historic event. The theme of the summit is enhancing unity and solidarity through dialogue for sustainable development. It's a platform to foster cooperation, promote peace and drive sustainable development across the Ummah and the world at large. We call on all Gambians to unite and support the government as it strives to host a memorable and successful event. Let's showcase our hospitality, culture and the beauty of the Gambia to the world. Join us in making history. Let's stand together, united as one, to ensure the 15th OIC Summit in the Gambia is an event to remember. Together, we can make a difference.
Hello viewers, you are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Asuri Balde. We are back again and it's Tuesday. And in the studios I'm with Mr. Adidrame and Aliou Cisse. Aliou will be our newspaper review guest today. Good morning, Aliou. How are you?
Good morning, Balde. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
How have you been, brother? It's been, I think he was here last week on the
yeah, I was here last week when you took that French
break.
That's
right. Yes. We've not shared the same platform, quite a while now. How are you juggling school at the same time, your journalist work? I know it's not easy. We've been seeing you doing a lot of stories and, commenting on a lot of things.
Yeah, it's not easy, like you mentioned. Going to school, doing your studies at the same time, coming to work. But, the good thing is when you have a management that is understanding and then when a management that really wants to see, the staff develop themselves, that's a good
How
thing.
do you take care of the management at home? Now you're a father.
Yeah, I'm a father, but like you said, that's what it comes with. The responsibilities comes and then, you just see how best you can manage them.
And before any of our viewers start panicking and saying, that's a schoolboy, listen, here, when they say school, they mean university, okay? He's at university. So when you hear school, translate that to mean
it's not the usual school.
It's not a primary. It's not a primary
exactly.
school that we're employing.
This program is sponsored by the OIC Secretariat. As you know, they are ready to the Gambia is ready to host the biggest event. When I say it's the second biggest convergence of heads of states in the Gambia, and quite a lot of things are going on, and I've seen a lot of progress. From construction, the roads, the VVIP launch, and at the same time the Redison Blue Hotel. We've seen a lot of things happening, Mr. Ade.
Well,
the media team also, they're busy doing their sensitization, talking to a lot of young artists and influencers in the country.
Well, young and old artists. Actually,
I've seen the likes of Jaliba Kuyate.
Yes, they're actually putting together a song. And part of the reason we're doing that is because we want Gambians to feel engaged. Yes, the summit is happening at a particular destination, a particular location, but it's for everybody. And that's why we're sort of going out, nationwide.
Absolutely.
To say, this is your summit.
Yeah, it belongs to us.
Sunyu Summit.
I am so anxious for us to come to the end of the OIC so that our projects can remain in the country.
Well, this is it, and that's going to be the benefit. Yes, these projects have been delivered on because we're hosting the OIC, but they will remain long after the OIC is gone. And we want to make it a memorable summit, not just for the visitors, but also for us residents. And that's why you saw them doing the cleaning exercise over the weekend. And, the message that we were trying to give with the people during that cleaning exercise is, yes, clean it because we're having visitors, but even after the visitors have gone, let us keep up that standard of cleanliness. Because we benefit from it, the environment looks nice, and it's good for our health. So, there are lots of spin-offs from the summit beyond just the summit itself.
Well, our name is not going to depict its purpose. We are the smiling coast of Africa.
We have to prove it.
So that is what it is. On the program, we'll be taking a look at, do we have the Q&A? Yes, with Imam Jah. It will be on the program. And of course the newspaper review. Then we will be talking to Honorable Sidia Jatta, former National Assembly member of the Gambia, and when it comes to PDOI, as we know, you know, the roles they play in advocating for
co-founder.
democracy in the country. So now we'll be looking at the introduction of local language in our education system.
And the reason we're having Xidia Jatta, of course, he's a linguist and he's somebody who's very passionate about this particular subject.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I'll ask him how will it feel for me to sit and start speaking fuller in the classroom.
During your biology.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's start with the Q&A. That's the first item on the list. Let's take a look at Imam Jah. As you know, they'll ask questions and Imam will answer.
Assalamualaikum ya Imam. Man de dama am laajte si weeri koor bi moo nekk si wàllum hida comme dama bëgg a xam ban time la nit war a start or bi si time hida bi because maybe nit nga ki nga xam ne bés boobu da nga leeta jóg léegi nga jóg nga eewu maybe nga dégg ñu ngeen nooda ndax foofu balaa ñuy wax asalaatul xayru mina nawmi ndax mun ngaa naan ndox wala lekka tàndarma wala depend si li nga bëgg a lekka wala suñ startee nooda bi rek time yi or jot na loolu laa bëgg a xam.
nit koo xam ne jàpp dafa jot mooy commencé or dafa jot ngay njëkkalante ak waxtu wi di lekk walla ngay naan loolu dafay yàq sa bés bi yépp su fekkee ne day nit ki dafa lekk walla naan te xamuloo ne fekk da nga juum daal xamoo ne waxtu wi dugg na soo ko xamee dangay stop la ngay def te da nga fay bés ba ci yenn boroom xam-xam yi waaye ci ñenn ñi déedéet waaye li gën a wér mooy da ngay fay su fekkee ne nag da nga dégg nodd gi ba pare ngay góorgóorlu di lekk walla naan loolu moom yow yaa ko tey da nga xotti ormaab weeru koor booba itam uute am na ci ndax da ngay fay boole ko kafaara waaye bi ma jàpp ne moo gën a wér mooy da ngay fay te doo kafaara insha allahu taala yal na yàlla def ne loolu moo dëppoo bëgg-bëggam.
Well, that's Imam Jah there answering that question when related to suhoor. At some point, there are times in the morning, once the azan is called, you don't have to take anything.
Take any food.
Yeah,
you did ask the question the other time, well, what if my hand is mid?
Exactly.
Mid.
Exactly. I mean, if your hand is almost there and they call for prayer.
No means no.
No means no. Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines. This program is sponsored by the OIC Secretariat and at the same time, Olinda and Lido Coffee.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, very soon it will be the end of Ramadan and we'll go back to our coffee in the morning.
I don't know about very soon. There's still a long way to go yet.
But we are halfway gone now.
And it will soon be
don't drag us behind.
Soon be the end of Lent because this coming weekend you have Good Friday, you have Easter, Sunday.
So I'm seeing on the paper today, I mean, they featured that Father Bruno Tupan passed away. He passed away a couple of days days back. I mean, it's important for us to mention this. Father Bruno Tupan played a very important role when it comes to education sector. You know, St. Augustine's, I mean, during our days, and at the same time, St. Peter's and other schools as well. You know, when you mention Father Bruno Tupan, the mental picture that you have is education. You know, so Aliu, we've lost a very important icon in the education system.
Indeed, a huge loss for the country. I mean, since his death was announced, I mean, I have seen so many prominent people in the country, you know, going on social media to actually, you know, extend their condolences to the family. I mean, like you said, I mean, as an educationist, I mean, he has really contributed hugely to the development of our education sector. As former principal of St. Augustine, where you actually attended, and many others, I mean, he is someone who will be remembered for actually impacting, I mean, the education sector and for really contributing to the development of this country. And like I said, I mean, his departure is a huge loss for our country.
Absolutely.
And Balde, yesterday you mentioned that one of the things that you associated with him was discipline. And this is somebody who believed in instilling discipline in students and pupils, and that was something that you said when he left one particular school, there were.
You can feel that gap.
That there was a gap there in terms of the discipline. It kind of went with him. So yes, and as Aliu rightly says, you can't go on social media these days regarding the Gambia in the last couple of days without seeing a tribute from somebody. So yes, he obviously impacted many lives. Yes.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the press release from the congratulatory message from President Barrow, to the President-elect of Senegal, Mr. Faye. You know, I think it's a very important thing. Especially the border that we share with Senegal. Most of presidents-elects, they pay their first visits to the Gambia, you know, trying to cement that relationship. Aliu.
Yes, when you go back to history, I think the first president of Senegal who actually visited the Gambia first immediately after election was Macky Sall. I remember under Jammeh, he was the first president who actually visited the Gambia. Those previous, before Macky Sall actually will first visit France or other countries, but Macky Sall was the first president
I can remember
to visit the Gambia immediately after he was voted. But like you said, Diomaye Faye being elected, and of course President Barrow sending a message of saying congratulations on your election is something that we all expect from the president. This is not just President Barrow. We have seen Umar Seko Embalo of Guinea-Bissau has also congratulated Diomaye Faye and Macky Sall himself. So I don't think, the change of government from Macky Sall to Diomaye Faye is going to in any way affect, the relationship between the Gambia and Senegal, because, we need to understand Senegal is very much important to the Gambia's foreign policy vis-a-vis Senegal as well. So, irrespective of who is the president of Senegal, these two countries need each other, because they are neighbors, and then we have a lot in common. So, yes, there's change of government. Diomaye is coming in, just 44 years. Very young. Perhaps people will say very inexperienced. Exactly. So, let's wait and see how it's going to span out. But, it's not going to be easy for him in his first term. I know expectations are quite high, but like I always tell people, they should really manage their expectations. They shouldn't just expect Diomaye to come within a year and 2 years and just change things overnight. Because most of the challenges that Senegal is confronted with is not just limited just to Senegal. These are global issues, and then Senegal is not an island as far as these issues are concerned. So, for me, people should just manage their expectations, but also Diomaye coming in as a president, they should see how best they can further strengthen that relationship between the Gambia and Senegal.
I've engaged few people too. Some of my colleagues in the office. Yesterday we were together, and they said to me, you know, these people, they have a radical mind. We'll come to that. They have their own way of thinking. So now they are going to do away with this neo-colonialism thing. Some people are pointing to France, saying France might not like the way they're going to operate as well. I don't know what's your take on that.
Balde, talk is cheap. You know, you and I know. I'm too old to be swayed by what people say during a campaign. Many people say many things, and then when they get elected or they become president, then reality hits them in the face. All the stuff that you said in the campaign, you're then having to reel back and apologize. Even Diomaye Faye might have to apologize for claiming that people were being taken from Gambia to go in to Senegal to vote. He said that on election day. That's probably not true, because Senegalese can vote here. Why do they need to be taken into Senegal to vote? So, you know.
Well, maybe he might be talking about the other way around.
He might have to. He might have to. But yeah, I mean, people say all these things. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to renegotiate all the contracts for the oil and all government contracts. Let's wait and see. Because as I said, talk is cheap. But
let's not just focus on Diomaye, but Sonko, the man that played the most significant role in ushering change in Senegal.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, everything shouldn't just be limited around Sonko as well. I mean, we saw in the dying minute, we saw Ablaye Wade also coming, you know, endorsing Diomaye Faye, and I'm sure that also must have played a part in this victory, because I mean, Wade's party is still popular among Senegalese. I mean, yesterday I watched Diomaye Faye make his first address. I mean, on Walfadjri, and then he was speaking in Wolof. But I mean, from the way he was talking, I mean, I think they are willing and open to to work with all the political parties, all those who took part in the elections, and even Macky Sall's party. But also they're ready to work with ECOWAS, UN, and all these countries to make sure they're able to achieve their agenda. Like I said, I mean, Senegal is not an island. I mean, they are coming, like Mr. Ades said, I mean, from the outside, you tend to see things differently. But when you get in, then you begin to face the reality. And that is really going to happen. I mean, we shouldn't just expect, yes, Jamai, Sonko coming in. Yes, they have their plans, like you said. I mean, they want to, I mean, renegotiate about some of the contracts and all those things, and perhaps, you know, taking over certain things. But, hey, it's not going to be easy, as many will think.
And I'll go to America for an example. When Donald Trump won, in his first statement, because the election had been quite divisive, he said that he wanted to unite the country. By the time Donald Trump left, America had never been more divided. And yet his speech was conciliatory. You know, we need to unite. We forget all the politics of the election campaign. Let's come together and unite, and I would be the person who will unite that. What's Donald Trump? He ended up being the most divisive president in my lifetime in America. So, you know, even the speeches they make on the day of their inauguration, you have to take with a pinch of salt.
Exactly. Let's talk about the cancellation of the elections date, you know, by Macky Sall. You know, don't you think that also contributed to the fall of his party?
Well, it depends on what you think, what your opinion is. I mean, for some might say, okay, that was a strategy just to make sure they have ample time to better prepare themselves. I mean, to make sure Amadou Ba is able to win, because I'm sure Macky is a smart politician. He has been in politics. He knows all the in and out. So perhaps they must have done their homework and realized, you know what, I don't think we stand a chance of winning with all what is happening now. You know, considering the events that preceded the elections. I mean, the arrest of Usman Sonko, Jamai Faye, and all those things. I mean, that also must have played a part in this whole thing. But like you said, I mean, we also have so many young people who perhaps believe, oh, why not we give the young the opportunity, you know, to lead. But then, like Mr. Ades said, I mean, yes, there were so many issues as far as, I mean, the politics in Senegal is concerned. And then because of that, we have seen almost like 20 candidates coming up to challenge Amadou Ba. But then, yes, whether or not, I mean, the change of date has in any way affected, I mean, the outcome, I mean, that is open to different interpretation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if you look at the vote quickly, I think, you know, I was one of those who thought Amadou Ba stood a chance. Yeah. But if you look at the vote, I don't think the postponement mattered in the end. I think looking at the vote, I think Jomai Faye would have won anyway. But what that postponement did, what it has damaged Macky Sall's legacy. This was a man who was respected across Africa, respected across the world. And when I saw the BBC interview, I have to say, I didn't think the BBC interviewer pushed him enough, because Macky Sall said it wasn't my decision to postpone the election. Well, actually it was, because I saw his address to the nation when he did it. And he said the same statute that gives me the power to call an election gives me the power to call off an election. So it wasn't because anybody else. It was your decision. And you said so, and it's on record. We can play the film if people want. He said it wasn't his decision. It was.
Yeah, so one of our very good followers is watching, Banki, in Spain.
In Spain, okay.
Yeah, so Banki,
hello,
good morning.
Banki.
Of course. Now let's take a look at the message from the President of the Republic of the Gambia. The message reads, I congratulate Mr. Basiru Jomai Faye, rather, for a victorious election, and commend the people of the Republic of Senegal for the peaceful conduct of the presidential election. I am optimistic that the cordial relationship between the Gambia and Senegal, I'm not seeing that, between the Gambia and Senegal,
probably will remain, or something, or will endure, something like that.
Exactly. Will continue.
Yeah, all right.
Exactly.
Yes,
so,
yes.
so Mr. Ade, this is very important. It came at the right time, you know, considering all other political parties congratulated the a president-elect?
I don't know. I mean, it would have been, in fact, that would have been a big story if next door in Gambia, the president didn't congratulate the winner, and particularly such a clear winner. I mean, there's no dispute about this election. Many analysts, myself included, thought it would go to a runoff. It didn't happen. It was a clear win, first-round win. So yes, you would expect if people from around the world are congratulating him, you know, presidents, as you mentioned, Guinea-Bissau, then yes, we would expect the Gambian president to be amongst the first 2, 3, 4 to offer congratulations, and that is exactly what has happened. So, yes, and yeah, I mean, he has a big task ahead of him, because, as Aliyu rightly says, expectations are very,
One thing
high.
I know, Senegal, it's not a small nation to rule. I mean,
and it's
you know,
not easy to rule either.
a country where you have a huge percentage of educated people. It's not like any other country to rule. And people, democracy, we've seen how their democracy, how they maintain their democracy. At some point when the elections were cancelled, I was thinking they will resort to a coup d'etat.
So did I.
Know? So it was very serious.
And
It's
it will take time because, I mean, you're taking over from a government that has been there for the past 12 years. That transition before you get grip, before you settle down and start, doing certain things, is really going to take time. So, for me, I mean, we shouldn't expect that much from Jomai and Team Jomai in this first term in office. Yes. In terms of, especially when in terms of projects here and there, maybe trying to reform certain things, they can do one or two things, but I mean the actual impact that many people will felt. I mean, so
and for me, that is the danger, because expectations have been raised, and as we mentioned, we keep talking about the young people. The young people think that by electing him overnight, he's going to create 100,000, 250,000 jobs. You know, if Macky Sall could have done that, he would have done it. But economics around the world dictated that that was not possible. So I'm not sure what miracle people will be expecting, but they are expecting a miracle, and that's why they've elected him.
What is more important, at the end of time, Senegal stays, and things move. Senegal belongs.
And I think the majority of the candidates also really, really help.
Very important.
Even before, people knew that Jomai was the winner. Some of the candidates had already started, congratulating him and then telling him, you win the election. I think the majority manifested by the candidate, even Amadou Ba, coming out to concede defeat. I mean,
long before
all
the results were in.
It sent a strong message to other countries who are also preparing.
Exactly. So now let's take a look at other stories as well. I mean, families of Ghanaians murdered in the Gambia in darkness over reparations.
Yeah, I mean, this story just will not go away. 44 migrants who were framed as being mercenaries. I think by the time they were being killed, everybody knew, the people involved in their killing knew that they were not mercenaries, that these were, because Gambia had become this kind of transition point for people trying to make the so-called backway journey, the irregular journey to Europe. And that's all they were, but they were killed. And so for the longest time, there have been at least 2 documentaries that I've seen. One was I Cannot Bury My Father, I think it's called, people can find it on YouTube. Yeah, they've been seeking reparations, and it has not happened. And so for them, there's still not closure. Yeah, it's.
But I am pretty sure there should be a team that is coordinating those things. I mean, the progress of the reparation process, there should be a team.
Yeah, but I think this reparations is a work in progress. Even here in the Gambia, not all the victims have really, get what they want. Yes, it is true. I mean, looking at the case of the Ghanaians, looking at how they were killed in this country. I mean, we had one of them, the survivors, who testified at the TRRC, and then, quite touching. I mean, looking at, like Mr. Ade said, they were framed as mercenaries at the time. Yes. Like I said, it's a work in progress. I'm sure the government will really consider, I mean, this reparation issue.
Because it's all right having a team working on it, but it's having the funds to make it happen, because you're talking about a considerable amount. And in this case, we're talking about 44 people, and that's just that instance. But as Aliyu said, even the ones who are here in the Gambia, we've done stories with Anaked and others where they've talked about people who have died before they've got the reparations that were due to them. So it's a complicated business, but funding is the big obstacle.
Well, it's an ongoing process, and I am pretty sure one day we will get there. You know, the issue of reparation, sometimes people think it will just come quick. I mean, most of the people that appeared, you know, on the TRRC, I mean, you know, some of them don't understand this is a very slow process sometimes. You know, other countries conducted their TRRC, and still now some of them are not given what they are supposed to be given.
As the Jamaicans say, who feels it knows it. So the people who are the survivors, they're the ones who are feeling it. And for them, yes, it is a slow process. And it's hard for them to understand why it's slow. And you talked about some people. I remember going to Sierra Leone years after the war. And some of the people who had amputated legs or arms, they were furious that effectively the former combatants had been bribed not to return to the bush by giving them, you know, mobiles to run as taxi, you know, motorbikes to run as taxis, thousands of them. And yet the victims had received nothing at that point. And they just felt it was so unfair that the people who were the perpetrators of our misery are being compensated for giving me one arm, one leg, whatever. And yet here I am, I've got
that's
nothing.
why, I mean,
and that's
why people are debating about this thing. I mean, the victims, what they need now is something that will really sustain them.
Absolutely.
Some of them are still struggling to send their kids to school. Imagine you're spending millions. I'm not saying, okay, justice is needed, but imagine spending millions just to prosecute one individual. Imagine if you are taking that much money and give it to the victims. Most of them, that's what they need now. They need that economic empowerment to be able to sustain themselves, have a better place to live, send their kids to school, and, you know, get that medical help that they need. Yes, justice is needed. I mean, whoever is involved in committing these atrocities must face justice, but also the welfare, the well-being of these victims. So really be, for me, that will be the biggest priority as far as this whole reparations is concerned. Because most of the victims are still struggling. I can tell you there are certain victims, if you have to put $10 million here today and said prosecution of Jammeh weekend is your priority, they will tell you, give me the $10 million.
Of course,
because that's going to help me change my life.
Most of them.
You know, send my kids to the best schools.
Well, it is so sad, you know, some of them are going through a lot in their lives, and at the same time, nothing has been done at the moment, you know. Like you said, who feels it knows it. Maybe we can just talk for them, but at the same time, they know how the situation is. I mean, I mean,
because most of them, I mean, they lost their loved ones, their breadwinners, people who were their husbands, their uncles, their fathers.
Some have been paralyzed.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen all that. National Assembly member blames Trade and Finance Minister for current price hikes. I'm seeing the picture. I'm seeing the picture of the. Is it Nyamina? The Honorable Jallo.
Right.
Okay.
I'm seeing his picture on the front page of the Standard newspaper. I mean, you see, price hikes, sometimes it's really confusing. When you talk about it, they'll tell you there cannot be price control in the Gambia. You know, so now who is responsible for this?
Because the law doesn't allow price control, and that's why. And we know that around certain times, around Ramadan, you know, the people who are selling these things, they bump up their prices of the things that they know people are going to need the most, because they know that some people feel they can't do without these things during Ramadan. And so, you know, I'm not sure how the trade minister, perhaps they think the trade minister should sanction them or stop them. But, you know, what these people will say is that if you don't want to buy it from me, go and buy it somewhere else. But this is my price. And really, there's nothing the law currently allows in terms of an intervention by the trade minister, or actually by,
Ali, what do you
by anybody
support?
else.
Price control or free market?
I tend to support free market. Price control, sometimes it comes with its own, you know, downside.
Problems,
I mean, it can lead to, you know, hoarding. I mean, people can just keep their goods, and then, for me, it's better you have them at an expensive price than having none in the market. That's also another problem. So for me, I think it's good we have that, you know, free market where people can sell, but then it doesn't have to come with, you know, people just doing whatever they want, selling certain things at the price that they want without no control. But then for me, I don't think, I mean, price control will will really help in
Well,
terms of
only and
containing-
until if the chain of price control can be controlled. That's the only time you would be able to regulate prices in the market.
Yeah.
Maybe from where they are acquiring these goods to where, I mean, it has been sent. If that can be controlled, I believe there can be proper price control in the market. But I cannot buy for 50,000 and I bring, and I import into the country, and you tell me
then
to sell for
40,000. Less than I bought it
That
for,
would be-
or whatever.
that would
The
be
people who
crazy.
are in business, they're in business to make a profit. And when they start making excessive profits, that's when we all get upset. And that's why people get mad. But sometimes we don't know how much they paid to bring in those goods. And we import far too many of the things that are necessities, that are essentials for our daily living. And until that changes, then the people who are selling can always give the reason or the excuse that, my importation fees are high and I have to pass it on to somebody. I don't have to absorb it myself. If I absorb it myself, it means I will make a tiny profit or none at all. And if I'm not making a profit, why am I in business? So it's a dilemma.
And sometimes, the prices keeps changing because of the exchange rate. I
Yeah.
mean, today you might go to the market and a dollar is like $56. Next week, it goes up to $60.
Fluctuate.
So this is really affecting most of these traders. I mean, what you buy stuff
Sure.
in the international market, and when you come down here, like you said,
Yeah.
you're gonna spend like $50,000 to get goods, and then you come out to sell it at $40,000.
But
People are into business for profit.
Well, this is, but sometimes people take advantage of it.
Exactly.
Too much
I
of
can
profit.
remember in Sierra Leone during the sort of global economic downturn, you'd go to the market and you want to buy mangoes that are grown locally, and they
I
charge you
was
some,
coming to that,
and you say, almost, you say, but na the global,
Yeah.
Are they imported?
na the global. Which global? If they're not imported.
The mango that you picked from your
from the-
house.
Just the other day, I went down the street to buy groundnut.
hey.
Imagine that small cup, you're telling me like $10. I was like, madam,
The small one.
where do you import the groundnut from? Homegrown groundnut.
I'm like, that's
And
it.
they'll tell you things are expensive. What is expensive?
Hey, na the global.
I mean,
global,
so
honestly.
it's a problem. I think it can be a free market, but the manner in which they are hiking our prices too,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really
It's a
alarming.
concern.
I think
And-
they
and-
need to
and-
look
and-
at
and-
that.
and
That's
the
what
concern.
authorities should take into consideration. You cannot control the market, but let us don't overhike our
Yeah,
prices.
quite.
So let's take a look at the ghost nets. Plastic pollution threatens marine spaces. This is a big problem.
Yeah,
It's a big
because
problem.
and the reason why we should be concerned is that we dispose of plastic waste, and then the fish that we eat end up eating that.
Yeah.
So they get caught by the fishermen, and they come and they're sold in the market, and essentially you're eating fish and plastic because the fish has ingested that plastic. So it is it's a serious matter, but I'm not sure I get the handle. What I'm pleased to see is that these days, when I go to the majority of shops, I don't get given a plastic bag.
They give you instead
They give you the sort of cloth one, which I guess is kind of slightly biodegradable, or they give you paper. I mean, a lot of them have been given paper in the last week or two, or maybe last couple of months. So that's a good sign that at least they're moving away from plastic bags, and particularly single-use plastic bags, because that's the thing. But yes, when they get into the marine environment, then of course the marine life suffers, and indirectly.
But we have a lot of
we
youth
suffer.
activists, I mean, that are doing well when it comes to, segregating plastics and other,
and raising the alarm. I mean, we haven't yet got to the stage where, I'm just, before I moved here from London, when they come to collect your waste, there are about 3 or 5 different bins that you have to leave outside for them to collect. And if the one that is for paper only has plastic, they won't pick it up. You come back from work in the evening and you think, oh no, I forgot, I left something plastic in it. Because it's not their job to sort it for you. The bins are there,
You have
separate
to sort
bins,
it
you
for
sort
them.
it for
Ali,
yourself,
that
and they just
reminds
come and
me,
pick it
you're
up.
going to the University of the Gambia, just the next door to the MDI.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw 3 huge bins there.
Yeah.
But they segregated it, plastic, they said
Paper.
organic,
Yeah.
they said this. But people mixed everything. When I saw it, that caught my attention.
No, but I think for me it's attitude.
And we need to get
It's
to
attitude.
learn
Like
about
Ade
these
said,
things.
it's attitude, and this is something that we should really change. I mean, if we really want to preserve our environment. I mean, there are certain things that for me is simple as ABC. I mean, it's clearly labeled. I mean, you should definitely know where things are.
If you're at university, you can read.
You don't have to
So
be
you
lazy
can't-
to do
you
But
that.
can't-
imagine,
use
I mean,
that
you walk
excuse.
on the streets, you see a dustbin just few meters away from you, and you just
You
throw
throw
it
it.
across.
And instead of waiting till you get to that bin,
And
you
then
just
you
throw
feel
it.
it's
We see
okay.
it. We see it every day.
And then you feel
Well,
it's
it's
okay.
attitude and, taking up the responsibility.
It's attitude, it's civic
You know,
education,
This
and
belongs to me.
yeah. But also, we should teach children both at home and in school that these things are wrong, because the people who are doing it, they grew up in a house. Many of them went to school. Did their parents teach them about this? Did the school teach them about this? We see it
Civic
every day.
education.
I mean, you don't need to take my word for it. Just jump in a car anywhere and just drive along. And you'll see discarded fruit, plastic cups, tins, Coke cans, Sprite cans, whatever, bottles, everything just strewn along all our roads. And those they're not thrown there by
Well,
animals. They're thrown by people.
okay, let's move on to the OIC road. I've seen something last week on one of the Facebook pages that follow. Instead of the driver to use, you said when
Oh
you
my
come to the
God.
Sukuta traffic, you've seen that, Ali.
I saw the video.
So
I was
the
like,
driver, he
He mounted the,
oh,
mounted the separation.
that was so disappointing and so shameful.
Well, it's yes.
Is it the fault of
Of the driver?
people doing the construction?
Why?
They didn't put certain.
No. That
I
one
mean,
is quite noticeable unless the driver was blind, because you don't get many accidents like that. But having said that, a few days before that happened, I saw a taxi trying to see whether he could. And I was thinking, I was looking at the
over
guy,
that.
and I was kind of worried for him. I thought this guy's going to damage his car, because there's no way you can mount that without scraping or being stuck. The bottom
can
of your
even
vehicle.
destroy your
No,
And destroy the
sometimes
bottom
you
of the-
even ask,
yeah.
what kind of society do we live in? Are we really human beings? I mean,
Exactly.
the way certain people behave,
Honestly.
you wonder. I mean,
No, that picture went viral.
are these
the
people
one you-
animals or what? Because, I mean, I don't really understand. I
Yeah.
mean, you're driving and you just...
There are no strict penalties. I mean, if you do that and they fine you 50,000 or 100,000 and you have to pay it, otherwise you go to mile 2 for 1 month.
Yeah,
I mean, you will definitely be very careful.
Yeah,
I think sometimes they come with severe penalties so that people can observe.
But a lot of the penalties that are in our statute books are quite old, and so the penalties are quite low. You can kill somebody and the reckless driving, and somebody might correct me, but it's something like $1,500 is. You can just dip your hand in your pocket and pay that. So, the penalties need to be updated in terms of, time, and society has moved on, and so has the economy. Financially, that's not a penalty for anybody, really.
And I've also seen an accident on the bridge. I think last week there was a car that...
Well, for me, one of the most surprising ones I've seen is that the flyover at Coastal Road roundabout. So because they had blocked off the roads where I normally turn off, I had to go over and then go around to Airport Junction.
Yes.
But to my shock, as I mounted,
And
there
the
was a
vehicle
car
coming.
coming on the wrong side towards me, and I thought,
On the wrong side
on
of
the
the
wrong
flyover?
side of the flyover. I've never. It's
What
the first
happened to
time,
the other lane?
It's the first time I've seen that.
What's wrong with him?
The guy was like, I just couldn't be. I wish I'd had a chance to film it, because I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. And had I been going at speed, we would have crashed.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't expecting a car to be coming down the wrong side of the flyover. And why would I? But that's insane. But I just said to myself, well, that's Gambia for you. And we shouldn't be saying that. We should be getting away from
Absolutely.
this kind of thing.
I don't like that, Mr. Ade.
But
that
it's the
word.
fact.
People keep
but it's
saying
the fact.
it's Gambia.
But it's a fact. There's no way Gambia should be in the top 10 of the world's worst when it comes to road traffic accidents. And yet we are. There are 188 countries listed.
It's very simple.
And Gambia has always, for the last 10 years, been in the top 10. At one point, we were at number 4. Now we're number 8. I mean, come on. But that's why people say that's Gambia for you, because there's this kind of reckless attitude, reckless behavior.
People don't care.
And you use the phrase about attitudinal change. That is what is needed. But I don't see it happening, and I don't see it coming. Even on Sunday, I went to visit my cousins at Bruford, and as I was coming, There was a pileup. 3 cars. I don't know how they managed to smash into each other. The police were there and they were monitoring it, but there was glass strewn everywhere, and 2 of the cars were wrecked beyond use. You couldn't use those cars again. And I'm thinking, why? How? And they had gone face to face, you know, head on. That's insane. Like, why? You know?
I think for me, I mean, we shouldn't just leave everything to the law enforcement agents. I mean, there are certain things we should be the agent of change. We should really condemn each other. I mean, if you're on the traffic and you see someone doing something that is wrong, you know, you should be able to address the individual and say, you know what you're doing is wrong. Like the video you're talking about, that guy who was trying to cross to the other side of the road. I mean, people were there, they saw him, they filmed it. I mean, they could have stopped him and addressed him. But at the end of the day, you know, we don't condemn each other, and then when the law takes its course and they start saying, oh no, you know,
you're penalizing this guy, you're this, you're that. You know, I asked the police why they didn't stop all these commercial vehicles that were plying the roads with no lights or 1 light. And it's like, oh, we don't want to take bread from out of their mouths. Never mind taking bread. Those guys are going to, there's a death. Those are dangerous weapons on 4 wheels driving without lights. You know, take them off the road. You know, but you know, and so there is this kind of reckless attitude. But Ali, you're absolutely right. We should kind of take ownership for the change and not say, oh, the law should do this.
Exactly.
No, we should regulate ourselves. Don't speed. Don't drive recklessly. You know, those are things that we should do.
Yeah, but before we talk about, I mean, those things, let's talk about the roadworthiness of certain vehicle. You know,
that's kind
I
of
think
what
those are the things that
alluding
we should
to.
be addressing
quite.
before we talk about, I mean, certain things as well.
Yes.
You know, there are many vehicles that are not roadworthy.
In the 60s, Gambia had a vehicle examiner. And the vehicle examiner's job and that of his office was that annually vehicles were checked for their roadworthiness. Why have we done away with that position? You know, when now is the time that we have even more vehicles, 1,000 times more vehicles than we did in the 1960s. You know, now is when we should reinstate the vehicle examiner and the vehicle examiner's office. And they should check cars. If your car is not roadworthy, it is not going on the road. And they used to penalize people heavily. But we don't anymore.
Unfortunately, I mean, it's different. Maybe in the West, there are certain vehicles that we see here and say, oh, it's the latest car. In the West, you dare not drive it because it's not roadworthy. You can't use it. But then for me, beyond that also, like, just coming back to the same point that I mentioned, it's about us being responsible. You can have the latest car here, but if you are not responsible in the way you use the car, I mean, we will continue to see more accidents on our road. So for me, it's about attitudinal change, people becoming more responsible. I mean, because like they will always say, the life you save might be your own.
So I mean, what is the essence of getting a beautiful new car and driving it to kill yourself?
This is
Why?
it. And
There's
know,
no point.
Just today, before I came into the studio, I called my mechanic. I said, can you come and collect the car?
Yeah, and
the brake pads need changing. And he's like, you can drive for... I said, no, they need changing. Change them when they're due to be changed. Don't tell me, oh, you know, it's going to cost you money. But that could end up, you know, saving somebody's life if it's once it's changed, rather than leave it because it's costly. No, it's
even good time to time you go for servicing. Don't be like Bande who will just be driving his vehicle.
As far as he didn't stop,
you know, he's considering, you know, how much you like
how much you are going to. When I saw Mr. Ade change
Bean.
his tires, I looked at his car. I said, Mr. Ade changed 4 tires. I said to Mr. Ade,
he commented.
I said, you changed 4 tires? How much did you buy each tire?
Don't tell them, but when I told you, you were shocked.
I was calculating. That's almost 10 bags of rice for me. Yeah, but that's how it should be.
Yeah, I
you don't have to wait until when there is huge problem. You start, I mean, in fact, it will save you because you need that vehicle to come to work and sort out your other things.
And Aliyu, again, you hit the nail bang on the head. In many countries, vehicles that we kind of think they will not be allowed on the road in England. And for example, you know, I lived there for so many years. People regularly service their cars, and also one of the things that I've found, and anybody who lives in England will confirm this, on a Sunday particularly, a lot of the British, they don't go to church. What they do is you see them fixing their cars because you can buy all the tools you need. And a lot of people do their own self-servicing of their cars. Even though there are lots of garages where you can go and they're qualified mechanics, it's a big hobby thing there. And of course now
can
a lot
do
of
it for
people,
yourself.
they go on YouTube
Yes.
and they got videos of how to fix
Yes.
everything.
And Aliu, I think our guest did not turn out. I mean, we will keep you,
yes.
you know, to the
And
end
I can
of,
speak on the subject
of the
up to a
program.
point, yes.
But let's talk about President Adama Barrow allowing the vendors to go back to, you know, their respective places. I mean, at least for the duration of of Korite, at least so that they can do their 50-50 buying and selling. That's the one tier. I mean, you know, so it also created a mixed feeling. I don't know whether they know it or not. Some people are saying, what is the use of the exercise then?
Yeah, quite. I mean,
yeah, I saw the press release yesterday, and then they were like, you know, out of humanitarian consideration, the president has, you know, given directives for them to have that temporary halt of the exercise, just to allow people to do business among themselves. I know the Easter is coming, they carry it as well. Yeah. But I mean, for me, like you said, I hope this is not going to defeat the main purpose of carrying this exercise now. I mean, for me, just allow the exercise to continue, and then gradually people will adapt. I mean, you know, people are getting to adopt. I mean, the impact of the exercise. But
exactly.
If we now have to allow people to come back, I mean, to take them back again, is really going to be difficult.
It's
like
going
you
to
said,
be
yes, it's charity. I mean, but then for me, the main purpose of the exercise is somehow being defeated.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
But you know, Gambia being Gambia, we know the pressures that there are. Lots of people have been saying these people is their livelihood, and they've not been given a viable alternative. So unless you allow them back to these places where they were previously barred from, then they're going to suffer. And you know, nobody wants to be the kind of the reason or the agent for their suffering. If you can, you know, alleviate it some way, and that's really what this is all about. So, you know, as you rightly said, there's kind of divided opinion. Either you stick to the plan, as Ali say, you know, yes, there will be some pain, but you know, down the line people will adapt and they will realize that this is a change, because when the temporary one ends, people will complain again, because they will want it to be made permanent again.
My only issue is it took a big deal before authorities were able to move these people. You understand? It took a lot of fights, a lot of cries, a lot of, you know, job to do this. So and it will take that big deal again to take these people off from this place.
But not only that, the ones who were protesting about it and saying we shouldn't, they will be saying, you see, we were right. We should not have been moved in the first place. When, you know, we had them come on and justify, and we accepted their justification for why they were doing it. And now it's been relaxed, albeit temporarily, but you know, those people who were suffering were saying, well, you see, we told you.
But okay. Especially those who had their stock just demolished.
Exactly.
And now you have someone from nowhere come and put their stock
where your structure previously
so
was.
Now the question here is, I mean, what about those on the other sides of the road? You know, here we talk about the market and the wanted. So what about those that are also, you know, I mean, those that are affected on the other sides of the road, maybe the Brikama, the Farato, the Busumbala, so will they go back to their respective locations?
Yeah, they will.
Because they will say, if those people can do, why can we not? That's the dilemma that has been created with this, you know, because they'll say, oh, those people are being allowed to go back. Why are we being prevented from going back? And so
it's fair for them to go back.
And it's fair for them to ask that question.
Yeah, so let's talk Kiundogu. I mean, we've seen how the Kiundogu team, you know, went as far as upcountry to distribute Ndogu to Daras, the madarasas, you know, to help support struggling madarasas. You know, we have that image on TV. Most of these students, you know, for those of us who are from upcountry, we know how hard it is. Alu, you are from Dongoroba. It's a madarasa community, a Dara community. You know how people struggle, especially some of the ustases, how they struggle to maintain, you know, the survival of these students. So this is a plus. in the right direction. This is not the way we used to do our Kiundogu before.
We used to cook. And
We
then
used to go
Yeah.
cook. I enjoy
What are the
those
most
days.
cook
Those are the
kind
days
of-
that I enjoy. We go buy a full ram, we come, slaughter it, cook, and we
And give
distribute the
This
food.
is 21st century.
Yeah,
in
so
Dogo.
now we focus on the I don't know who focused on the madrasas, but that's the right direction.
It really is,
Yeah.
and it's been such a boost for them. And what you probably we need to mention is that this year they visited more than ever before, and next year, inshallah, even more. So it's been very much kind of rolled out on a much larger scale than ever. And of course, if people are watching, they'll be watching. And in case you're wondering about the telephone number, it's for the individual madrasa. That's
Madrasas,
mentioned.
don't call that
You
number.
can, you can contact them if you want to help them, of course, even further. But yeah.
Some people will say, I mean, why not, if you are to help, don't put it on the camera. Some people will say that. But I listened to CEO the other day. He said, we want people to emulate. We are not just filming this for people to see what we are doing, but we want other people at least to emulate what we are doing so that we can live in a better Gambia. And that's the point.
You know, it depends. For example, I mean, you cannot have a support of this magnitude and you hide it. You can't hide it. There is no way you can hide it.
Quite.
What we don't understand is you doing just small 1 or 2 things, maybe at Westfield or somewhere else, and then putting everything on social media. There are certain people who wouldn't want to be shown on camera.
Yeah, quite.
That's true. But in this case, no matter what happens, you cannot hide this. People will obviously know
the
about it.
magnitude.
And this is something that, you know, the Q group has been doing for the past years. And aside from just visiting the madrasa school, I like the diversity. The other day I was watching and I saw them, they were visiting even the military camps.
Yeah,
they
that's
visited the Basse camp, they went to the fire service. I was really inspired. I was like, wow, I think this is good. I
That's
mean,
a good one.
Exactly. So for me, it's important. It's going to inspire other companies as well, you know, to come out and do the same. But then, yes, people are open to their own interpretation. Yes, not everything that you do also should be in the open. And certainly we know that there are a lot of things that the Q group is doing that is not shown on TV.
Yeah, sure.
There are a lot of things that the chairman is doing which is not shown on TV. So perhaps, you know, this kind of support, you can hide it. There's
Well,
no way
and
you can
at the
hide
same
it.
time, Q cell or the Q group too.
But just
I
imagine,
mean, this is our corporate social responsibility.
Exactly.
We
And,
have
and,
to do it.
and just imagine,
Yeah.
okay, Mohammed saying, okay, whatever I do, I want QTV to cover it. Especially he said Bande likes money. And he said Bande,
Yeah, quite. Yeah, quite.
it wouldn't be easy, my brother.
Yeah, quite.
I know.
Yeah. So I think the idea of, you know, not showing out anything that you do is just, I mean, it's not necessary. There are certain things that are not necessary. I mean,
True.
Mr. Ade can give you something today. He wouldn't need for anyone in the office to know that yes, Mr. Ade has given you something. So that's
True. Yes, like you said,
that's
there
the
are
idea.
supports of certain magnitude. They need to be highlighted.
Yeah.
They need to be seen. You understand? You cannot do such a thing and you expect people not to see it.
Yeah.
And be reminded, the Quranic competition final, it's coming.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the Azan competition will be incorporated as well. So it will be Saturday coming next at Q City. So we are calling all those that are qualified for the Quranic competition final to meet at Q City.
Are you going to MC that one also?
Absolutely.
You want Zainaba?
Absolutely. We are going to MC that one as well. Yeah, so gentlemen, this is the end of this program.
Already?
Yes,
Wow,
we are doing the quoting here.
Yes, unfortunately, I guess we have to apologize to the viewers that we weren't able to bring the
Honorable Sidia.
Sidia Jata, the local language in education story, but that's maybe next time or another time.
Yes. Aliu.
Thank you so much, Bande. It was a pleasure to be on the program.
Thank you. And this program is sponsored by the OIC Secretariat and, of course, Lido and Olinda T. Until we come here again tomorrow, have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye.
Akita Gambia ise wotika OIC Summit giyanyinan membe kela abentang ani lulu njangoti abekela mekaro tilinani katafo atili lulu kan 2024 mansa kewolu presidentolu maralalu prime minister lu ani ngol be yalon ko wolle be bala andi dabe nyinka photo men tata fo banku taw lulu ani worowula wolle be benna na banko kan pour nyimbe ngona membe kela tari koti
bego ko fango be men kacala wolem ka jankundir ke kilimbaya kilingola ani nyomuto katambi kacalu la ndammalu tema pour na bankol la yirwa ani nyatota ibe kumandir ke la gambia dingolu bela ka ke kilinti kamansa kunda fasa ila sinfa nyato yementa pour ka bembakia me yalonko motenyi nalala ali nganna timinandi ya itandi na kyosano na hadabadiya ani na daji ko kendo me yalonko dunia yello wal alika fu manga ke tarikoti ngalo ngaka kilinti nga nyomuta ngaje ko nyimbentang ani lulu nyaw OIC Summit Gambia kono mu bennati me yalonko motenyi nalala